all you fraternity pledges.
Hey.
I hope you have your pledge pins on because it's time for another head-splitting episode of
Red Movierama!
And man, we're going to have a blast with this one because we're covering the 1986 classic horror comedy film, Night of the Creeps. And also, we've got a special guest on the show, and that pretty much means, guys, that I kind of need y'all to kind of just go away for a while.
Oh, man, I don't like that at all.
Hey, you heard the guys. You need to all just split. Vamoose. We'll take care of it from here.
Well, I kind of want you to kind of disappear as well.
Now, wait a minute here. I thought that we were a team here. We through thick and thin.
Well, we are, but, sometimes I like to have guests, and I don't want you to scare them off.
Well, excuse me, you worried about me scaring them off, and you're going to watch some crazy movie called Creepy Night of the Dead or whatever?
No, it's actually called Night of the Creeps, and it's kind of a classic.
Well, it doesn't sound like anything I want to listen to anyway, so I'll just get out of your way, Skippy.
Well, I appreciate that as well.
I'll kick it off for you, though. Take it away, Rick.
Night of the Creeps is a 1986 horror comedy movie directed by Fred Decker. A couple of fraternity pledges pull a prank with a frozen body and let slug-like creatures loose on the campus. Starring Jill Whitlow as Cynthia, the typical girl next door. Jason Lively as Chris. Hey, he's from European Vacation. Steve Marshall as JC. Hey, I could hang out with this guy. Alan Kaser as Brad. Yeah, he's the preppy guy you love to hate. And also starring freaking Tom Atkins as Ray Cameron. Too much coolness for one screen. Back to you, Rick.
All right, folks, we're going to jump right into this one, and I want to introduce to you pretty much my long-lost brother. I think we were separated at birth, and that's Mr. Joseph Zbiegienand. Is that right?
That's perfect. That's better than I said.
Wow. You're not lying to me, are you?
Not even remotely. Not even remotely. Perfect.
We're such good friends, I screw up his last name every time we talk, so.
Everybody does. I don't know how it's pronounced.
This guy is one of those that we started responding to each other's posts, and it just seemed like, it got to so ridiculous. It was like, hey, I like cheese. And he'd be like, I like cheese too. It's like, well, there you go. Brothers.
Cheese is good. Cheese is great, though. Wait.
It is.
We doing cheese this podcast? I can do cheese.
I can
do cheese.
Definitely do some cheese.
Okay,
This movie's got plenty of cheese in it.
Oh, yeah, plenty of cheese.
I've got some things wrote down here. I say you're a blogger. You're a reviewer. I said podcaster. But what's this 10MFH thing?
Oh, yeah, that's so that's a friend of mine. So that goes way back. So there used to be Todd McFarlane Movie Maniacs. I don't know if you're familiar with the Movie Maniac action figures.
Absolutely.
Back in the day, I used to be a administrator and a moderator on the official, or the not official, but the moviemaniacs.net message board. I was Bloody Thumb. Made friends with a bunch of people there that I'm still friends. One of my buddies on there, Doug, he runs the 10 Minutes from Hell. Used to do some more with it, used to do some reviews and stuff. It's kind of got one of those things. We're both now, middle-aged in our 40s. When we started, we were, 20s. So, it all kind of slowed down a little bit. But, yeah.
Cool.
Fun
stuff.
So
are you currently doing anything blogger-wise or review-wise or anything like that?
I still do my blog when I can. COVID makes it hard. Not very creative, but I have a blog. It's called Crap Nobody Wants to Read. I have my faithful reader. His name's Steve. He's a really nice guy. I just put up. I don't consider myself a reviewer because I used to review movies on the moviemaniacs.net back in the day, and
Yeah.
I don't know. It got weird, and so I started to I just like to talk about movies. So I don't really consider myself that I review them. I just sit down and just like blather on like an idiot about whatever movie I feel like talking about it that day. I put up short stories up there. I put up, one of my favorite pieces, reoccurring pieces. I put up bad teenage Joe poetry. I will also occasionally put up my bits and pieces of my Friday the 13th fan script. I mean, I was like 22 when I wrote it, and, it's all solid gold. It's all solid gold. Every minute of it.
That's awesome. Yeah, people that just talk about movies, that sounds familiar. I don't know. You may have a long-lost brother, separated birth, that kind of does the same thing, because really I don't know anything about these movies. I just like them.
Yeah, little bit familiar. Yeah, that's exactly it. I like to talk about what I like about him, like to talk about, I don't talk about movies I don't like because that's not fun. Well, sometimes that's fun. Sometimes it's a lot of fun to talk about what you don't like, but that's not the case here.
But yeah, what we do like is Night of the Creeps, right?
Yes.
One of the finest movies I think 1986 had to offer in the horror genre. It's
definitely
a long lost friend for me, man. This is a movie I can pop on anytime. And
oh yeah, me too.
Yeah, never get bored. It's I don't know, man. It's right at the height of the roller coaster horror movie, right? Because it's not full-fledged horror.
Yeah.
It's just a kind of a mixed bag of everything. You're kind of getting the dark humor of everything that was coming out this time with Reanimator, Evil Dead 2. This one kind of fits right in there comfortably with all that stuff, and just absolutely love it.
Yes, yeah. This one for me, I'm a little bit younger than you, I think. I think you're a little older than I am.
Yeah.
But so I was 11.
I'm old.
I was 11 when this one came out, and one of my favorite things to do, I wish I still had this notebook, but I had a notebook where I would sit down, a movie would start up, I would write down Night of the Creeps, directed by Fred Decker, written by, starring, but I'd write down the information in the credits. And then as the movie went on, I'd be like, okay, death 1, frat guy, killed by slug. I'd put up girl killed by, guy with axe. And I would sit there and I would watch these movies and I would keep a detailed record of how many people died and what happened to them. And like this one, I remember this one just going crazy and rewinding at the bus sequence so I could count exactly how many people were on that bus so that I could have an accurate number. And I went into school and I'm in the lunchroom the next day, go, no, you got to see Night of the Creeps. Look at how many people died in the bus sequence alone. Yeah, I wish I still had that notebook.
What's hilarious is your 11-year-old self takes better notes than what I've got for this show tonight.
You know what? I have a notebook. I have a notebook of notes sitting here that I actually wrote almost a year ago. And was going to watch it. Was going to, do a couple of rewatches and like, well, you know what? I already have the notes.
Yeah, so what he's getting to there is we were going to try to do this one on House of Wax when we kind of had it up and running, and we actually recorded an episode talking about this movie, and technical difficulties took over, and it just basically wiped the whole thing out. So we're going to have a bit of deja vu here,
a little bit
going through this, but
Gremlin got into the system.
It's going to be totally fun. So let's launch into this thing. So this thing starts off like you expect any horror movie from the 80s to start off with an alien spacecraft.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite things about it. It's got the movie starts like 3 times. Yeah,
it's kind of like Superman the movie where you just keep changing locations, right? So this one, you start off in an alien spacecraft. These little bitty, they're kind of E.T. looking, but a little scarier looking. They do have functional legs, so that's a win for them.
So I did have a friend watch it with me. It was her first time seeing the movie. She loved it, so it holds up. And about the aliens, she did point out that the aliens have cute little butts. So take that as
selling
you will.
point.
The female perspective, the aliens have cute little butts.
All right. But you got a couple of aliens chasing another alien, and one of them's got this container, right? And they this one is running, and through detail, when you finally get to look, his eyes are a little different from the other aliens. It's kind of a giveaway to what's happening here, but he takes this container and it jettisons off of the spaceship, just like R2-D2 and C-3PO in the original Star Wars movie, and he just shoots it out into space. And so whatever that he was hiding, he's thrown off the ship. And then we get a scene where it cuts away to black and white, and some text comes up that says 1959 Sorority Road. So we've gone from space movie to 1950s goody two-shoe time in America, right?
Corman University.
Yeah. And we got this guy that's pulling up to pick up his date. His name's Johnny. And they go out parking, and while they're parking, they're looking at the stars. And a policeman walks up, who is this lady's ex-boyfriend. They just split up. But he's out there to warn everybody that, hey, there's some kind of madman on the loose, and y'all probably need to get out of here. But much to his surprise, his lady here is in a car with this other dude, and he's not happy about it, but he just tells them, hey, just get on out of here. While that's going on, a meteor flies overhead, and Johnny, the guy that's out with the lady, decides, I'm going to go check this out, like you do in every sci-fi movie from the 50s.
Would. Yeah, if I was making out with an attractive college girl at make out point, and I saw a meteor crash, I'd be like, hold up, honey. Hold up.
Yeah.
Put this on hold. We have to go look at the brightest star and go look at the meteor. Makes sense. Perfect sense.
Yep. So he drives out to this location and just parks the car and leaves her in the car because he's being safe, right? I want to keep her safe from whatever this thing is. She may get burned by the fire or whatever. So he goes out to look at the meteor. She stays in the car, and she happens to turn on the radio, and there's a live report of, warning, there's a crazy man running around with an axe that's chopping people up.
I love that too, because they play with that throughout that entire opening, where they start in other news, an escaped mental, and then they turn the station and they're playing like Head on My Shoulders, and every time it comes up, somebody just turns the station to just miss it until we get that perfect point of her sitting in the car. They do the Corman University, so of course she turns on the headlights and sees Corman University. Yep. It's a great scene. Great setup.
Yep. And needless to say, homicidal maniac sneaks up behind her and pretty much chops her up with an axe. Yeah, because, you're right exactly where the radio guy said that you didn't need to be.
Yeah. Yeah, why the cops didn't look where the radio guy said? I don't know. I mean, the radio guy said he was there. Why didn't the cops go there?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point.
I call him as I see him.
But yeah, while that's happening, Johnny is back where the meteor is, and he leans over, and the container's busted open, and a slug basically jumps up out of the thing, goes flying right into his mouth, and that's all we see. And like I said, as soon as this is all over, then it cuts to Pledge Week on the same campus in 1986. So we've jumped to modern time, if you will.
Yep. Third opening.
Where they're playing an excessive amount of Wall of Voodoo in this movie, too. I don't know if you noticed that, but every song it's playing is Wall of Voodoo.
Well, that's actually something I did want to bring up as we talked about this, because I love the soundtrack to this. The retro stuff, the stroll, Head on Your Shoulders, that's all excellent stuff. Then they're playing, Blue, Day or whatever it is, Jane Wilden's singing there. Yeah, I was in heaven. Yeah. 11-year-old Joe's like, this is my stuff. I'm happy. And then 45-year-old Joe's like, yeah, good taste, Joe.
Stick with it. Stick with
it.
At this point, we get to meet Chris and JC. Pretty much the people we're going to follow through the rest of this movie. Chris is pretty much a naive young guy trying to make his way in the world, and JC's his buddy who's has a little handicap in his life, but he has a big chip on his shoulder, too. He doesn't let it hold him back. Actually, he's probably my favorite character in the whole movie, but
oh yeah,
that's just me.
Definitely, I'm with you there. I love JC.
Second favorite character. Let's
second favorite character. Yeah, we can't forget that.
Right. And they're hanging out, and like I said, it's Pledge Week. They're out in front of the Beta's building, or the Beta's house, and Chris sees Cynthia, which is the girl of his dreams. He's afraid to talk to her. They actually go into the Beta house where she's going in. Chris thinks eventually that the only way that Cynthia will have anything to do with him is if he's in a fraternity.
And I mean,
which
that's
makes
sound
perfect
logic.
sense.
Yeah, it's sound logic because, it's he's the guy from from what, the second Vacation movie?
Yeah, European Vacation.
Yeah, he's from European Vacation. He's gonna need a sorority or a fraternity behind him to to get in there. Good move on his part.
So they decide, in order to make this happen, they're going to pledge to the Betas, and the president of the Betas, who we find out is Brad. Is the boyfriend of Cynthia. Yeah, and he's your typical preppy 80s guy.
I absolutely love Brad. He is, because do you remember Mama's Family? The TV show Mama's Family? He was the idiot, essentially, in Mama's Family. And here he just comes
Holy
out like
smokes.
somebody tried to clone James Spader, and it failed. And then, like, you see them sitting there with, like, the groups of, things. And you even have the one guy sitting next to him when they first meet with this cigarette, just completely being the guy from Animal House, the one preppery from Animal House. And just such, great, very stereotypical. Playing it perfectly.
I never knew he was the guy on Mama's Family.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, see, to me, I always think of, where's his follow-up story? I mean, it's almost like he's Zabka Jr., right? It's almost like they're going to make a movie and say, no, man, this, Chris was being mean to me, and you do the whole flip thing, and we get a series later on, Yeah,
I don't know. After kicking the crutch out from under JC, I don't know if we're going to be able to build him sympathy. It's going to take a much better writer than me to do that.
So, in order to join the Betas, he gives them a challenge they got to fulfill, and it's not an easy one. They have to go find a corpse and deliver it to one of the other fraternities' front steps and just drop the body off, and there you go. You're a Beta.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I think I disagree. I think it is pretty easy. It's so easy it almost does it itself. I mean, it almost does it for them so that they don't have to do it.
Does.
It's almost like the corpse just gets up and walks away. And all they have to do is run away screaming like banshees.
There you go, folks. That's the whole show. We don't have to cover anything else.
That's it. Have a good day.
Well, it does give you that thing of, okay, we're on a college campus. Where do you find a corpse?
Well, I mean, obviously, Ricky, you go to the cryogenics freezer. I mean, every college camp has, I mean, I don't know. I wasn't allowed in college, but I'm guessing that, people that were allowed to go to college had, worked at the cryogenics freezer.
And you got to love the fact of this doctor/scientist guy is typing in his password to get into the office or the cryogenics science lab, and can't remember the last number, which is 0.
and that almost Star Trek quality metal slide door that they have there that has no business being on a college campus. It's fantastic.
Well, why would cryogenics be on a college campus like this? I mean,
well, now you're using
especially
logic.
In '86.
And I love before they even bring out that it's cryogenics. I love when they're looking at the body and they're like, "Look, it's a pops thing." Like, who is it? Walt Disney? Before they even establish they're making the jokes about the Walt Disney being frozen. Very clever script. So many hidden jokes in this.
Yep. So they find the frozen dude, which is Johnny from the beginning of the movie. They've got him locked up in this, container. And they decide to, they find the conveniently placed disable button. It's even labeled disabled button.
Yeah. And was it disabled or disengaged? Because if it was disabled, it seems
maybe it's
like
disengaged.
Okay, good. Because I was going to say, if
maybe
it's disabled, the guy using the crutch to hit the disabled button Like I
That's
said,
way too clever.
That's way too clever, even for Fred Decker.
Right. Disengage. I think that's correct, yeah. It's just a big red button,
Yep.
though. I mean, you can't
Yep.
miss it. Oh, I mean, it's almost like the button in the Zarkov's ship,
Yeah.
right? Before, that he hits his head on to launch him into space.
Yep.
So we got this guy that they've broken out of there, and while they're moving him out of the lab, the corpse grabs one of them's arm, and they freak out and take off running like banshees, screaming like banshees. It cuts away to where they're taking off running, and then the scientist shows up and sees them running out. He goes in, sees the body laying there, and he leans over the body, and guess what? A slug jumps out of Johnny's body that's been in this thing for 40 years, and it goes right into the scientist's mouth. And then it cuts away and goes to Detective Ray Cameron's dream sequence.
Ray Cameron. Tom Atkins has said that this is his favorite role, and he is amazing in this role. He acts the heck out of it.
It's phenomenal. This is the movie that made me a Tom Atkins fan.
Oh, yeah. This
And
movie made 11-year-old Joe tick his parents off by answering the phone with "Thrill Me." And I always answered "Thrill Me," and yeah, my dad, no, you gotta say,
You can't
say hello.
You can't say "thrill me."
Okay, whatever. Tom Atkins could do it, Dad. I
That's
can.
right. I've got a Tom Atkins shirt that says "Thrill Me." So yeah, it's awesome.
Nice.
But yeah, man, this dream sequence. It turns out that the girl, when she was killed, was again his love interest, his first love, and he keeps having these dream sequences of her as she's aged, just like he has, like their love relationship never ended. But they do this kind of tribute to Jaws here, where she's out in the water and it's all in reverse. She's coming up out of the water, and you got the people passing in the bikinis, and that's the swipes. I mean, it's dead up Jaws, no doubt about it.
Yep.
And it's a freaky dream sequence. And then the phone rings, and like you said, he answers, "Thrill me." And he gets the call that something's happened down at the lab. And so he goes down there, and the scientist's body is there, but Johnny's body is nowhere to be found. He starts giving the cops a hard time. "Hey, you called me. You said there was 2 bodies down here. I come down, there's 1. The other thing about this is, and we're getting really close to it, but all of their names are names of horror directors. Even the college is named after, the university.
Cynthia Cronenberg. Was it J.C.
You got
J.C. Wasn't it J.C. Romero, and the C was Carpenter?
No, it's John Carpenter.
Detective Raimi.
I've got it. It's John Carpenter Hooper and Christopher Romero.
Right. That's right. That's right.
So everybody's named after horror directors,
except for one person isn't named after a horror director, and that's in a cameo, in an excellent cameo. Not to jump ahead, but in an excellent cameo, we have Dick Miller.
Oh yeah.
Playing, if you look at his name tag, it says they call him Walter, and then his nickname or his name tag says W. Paisley. So playing his character from Bucket of Blood, the same name. So while it's not exactly, it's still a nice throwback to a classic.
All the old Corman stuff, yeah.
And Dick Miller's amazing
Dick Miller.
and that scene is fantastic.
Yeah, it is, man. So we're at the point to where they're looking for the other body, Johnny's body, and it ends up, Cameron even says, well, it didn't just get up and walk away. Well, yes, it did. It did, Cameron. It got up and walked away to the sorority, climbed up in front of Cynthia's window, his head split open, and a bunch of slugs come out of it. And they go down into the basement of the house, of the sorority house. So, a little flash to earlier, there's a girl that's staying there, that's doing some kind of science project that's got, I don't know, a big crate full of brains.
Well, yeah, again, as you would, it's very common for, again, I wasn't allowed for security reasons on college campuses. We won't talk about that for right now. But, again, as they would, sorority girls carried around boxes full of brains. I understand it's common.
Sure.
Granted, everything I know about colleges I got from movies, so I may be off.
They decided to take those and put them down in the basement because they don't want them just laying around the house anywhere because, ooh, brains, ew. So, and we do get a timely placed cat jump scare here, too. Lady hears something at the door, and we're thinking it's going to be Johnny's corpse walking up to the door. But she opens the door, and the cat jumps up, and it's Gordon.
You know what? And I don't know why. I have no idea why. But you watch a movie, and there's just that little thing that just clicks in the back of your mind that just drives you crazy.
Yeah.
For some reason, when it pays off, her delivery of Gordon, when she's like, Gordon, I have no idea why, but it like sets the hair on the back of my neck standing up. And I'm always like it, whenever it starts, it's like, oh, she's about to say Gordon. And I like get annoyed with it. I have no idea why. I'm watching it again. I'm like, it's really not that bad. Why does it bother me so much?
Well,
and then she said it, I'm like, oh.
Because Gordon is not a lovely, fluffy name when you say it.
Yeah, no,
Gordon.
No, it is not.
You're supposed to say, Gordon's alive, Not, oh, Gordon,
Nice. That was good. I heard what you did there.
Oh.
Nice.
So, we got a body in front of the sorority house now, and the cops show up, and they're trying to figure out what's happening. The next morning at school, Brad confronts Chris and JC with probably the best gag that's in this movie with, don't you know the difference between the sorority and the fraternity? And he says, it's all Greek to me.
Yeah,
classic.
No. Not cool, bro.
Not cool, bro.
Not cool.
And this is the part where they're trying to walk away from him, and they say, look, man, we chickened out. We couldn't even do it, so we don't even know what you're talking about this corpse. And when they walk away, then, Brad trips JC, and he falls on the ground. And then Cindy gives him the one-fingered salute. And people clap.
Very creatively.
Yeah.
Very creatively. She doesn't just, flip him off. She does the hand up there. She does the old style, crank to slowly bring it up. Kind of almost, Star-Lord-esque.
Yes.
If I may say so.
Yeah. Maybe.
Very nice. Very nice. Good job, Cynthia.
And out of this, some cops are standing there. Or one of the officers is there, and he ends up hauling Chris and JC in, and we get the fantastic interrogation scene.
Yeah, again, where we get the classic line, screaming like banshees, and what's probably a little bit of an on-PC performance by the janitor.
Yeah.
Probably not something that would make it into a movie, but again, it's just like another 10-minute whatever scene of just watching Tom Atkins over the top just steal every moment but Jason Lively does an amazing job in that scene. I think the two of them are fantastic. Yeah. He doesn't try to meet, Tom Atkins' level. He just kind of keeps it, low. Yeah. I love that whole scene with the back and forth with the JC trying to come up with a story. No, we didn't do it. And then Chris is just like, we did it. We totally did it. He's lying.
He's lying. We did it. Yeah. It's so great. Yeah. And again, like you said, the screaming like banshee guy, I mean, he's the janitor and he keeps saying it over and over. And so they end up cutting them loose. And it goes to a scene of the janitor at one point where he's actually just cleaning whatever, and he's still saying, screaming like banshee. And then all of a sudden,
still chuckling to himself.
The scientist from earlier is on an autopsy table, which I love. I love this scene.
Yes, that's a great scene.
Because he plops up, straight up, and he's been sewn open, and the scissors and everything are still attached to where they've done the sewing and stuff.
Yeah.
And he gets off the table, toe tag and everything, and he's walking down the hallway, and a cop passes him and doesn't even look at him, just says, see you tomorrow.
Doesn't even look up. Well, and I also love that, like, the coroner's stand there, he jumps and he turns and looks, nothing's happening, and then he goes back to his thing, and then when he actually sits up and walks away, coroner doesn't even move, not even phased, just ignores it, lets it go, which actually brings me to something else I wanted to talk about with this.
Yeah.
So here's one of the things I want to do someday. I want to write a book about the history of coroners eating in movies.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I mean, because again, we have the classic. The first time you see him, he's sitting over the body, shoving a sandwich. Every single time you see that coroner, he's just doing the old cliche. And I want to know where that came from. I want to know when we started doing that.
Yeah.
I want to know the first place. I'm fascinated by it.
It kind of steps
no
back
idea
to
why, but I'm fascinated
a lot of the
by it.
giallo films, the Italian movies. Instead of it being the coroner, it was always the detective. The detective is, in most cases, eating something all the time. So I don't know if it's some kind of carryover from just those movies or what, but you're right, man. All through this decade, coroners are eating
Maybe
food.
I'm overreaching by saying a book, maybe more of a pamphlet, but, I want to research it someday.
That's awesome.
It'll happen.
That's great. But yeah, he's walking down the hall and he runs into the janitor, and the janitor screams and it cuts away. So you're thinking, okay, they got him too.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
When that janitor screams, would you say he screams like a banshee?
Well, not really.
Yeah. Probably not.
Nah.
Yeah, probably not. That's a stupid question.
Not banshee-ish. Not banshee-ish at all. So it's just kind of a...
No, not even remotely.
From here, we go to Cynthia showing up at the guy's dorm room and wants to go out and take a walk. And, of course, Jason Lively's character, he's super nervous around her, but they decide to go out and walk. JC's with them. And then at some point, JC says, look, you guys, this is going a good direction for 2 people. 3's a crowd, so I'm going to head on to the little boy's room. So he goes to...
JC being an amazing wingman.
Yeah.
Doing everything right,
Hooking him
making
up.
sure his bud... Yeah. We all need a JC in our lives.
Which there's a great scene we kind of pass through here, too, as well, because the scene after they get back from finding the corpse and all that, where they have a little dispute back and forth, and JC even lays out, look, man, I do everything for you. You were trying to find this girl, you're heartbroken, you think the only way she's going to get with you is if we join a fraternity, let's join a fraternity, So he's very, hey, whatever benefits you, because I'm not going to get anything out of this deal, but I want you to be happy. So they have that kind of relationship.
And again, you watch some of these 80s movies and the people aren't natural, the people don't really connect well.
Yeah.
But you watch this and you buy that Chris and JC are friends. Yeah. You buy that Chris and Cynthia are friends. Right. It's completely believable. They all play off each other so well.
Yeah.
So that's definitely one of the things that I love about this movie. It's just it does feel like you're watching a bunch of friends.
Yeah. And even though that kind of comes to a screeching halt at this point.
Yeah.
Because JC goes to the bathroom, and while he's in the stall, even though it's got probably my favorite thing in the whole movie where it says Striper Rules behind his head on the wall.
Yep. And if I may be wrong, but doesn't it say Striper Rules? Because didn't Decker direct a Striper video or something like that?
Something to that degree, and I think some people that were working on the set was either people that was working with them, or there's something to that connection where they were all involved.
Yeah, there's something with that connection. Yeah.
But
you'd think I would have looked that up before just blurting it out here. But hey, this is my first time. Give me a break.
Yeah, don't worry
Get
about
off my back.
You can look it up yourself.
Not you. You're not on my back. I'm talking to the listeners. Get off my back.
Google it if you want to know so badly.
But then also, we have another reference in there, though. We have another reference a moment later to Decker's next movie when we see on the other wall, Go Monster Squad.
Monster Squad.
So,
yeah. Which we may have to return and do that one, too.
Oh, such a good movie. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So JC's taking care of business, and all of a sudden he hears something, and he opens up the stall door, and laying on the ground in front of him is the split open head of the janitor. And a bunch of these slugs had come out of it. And it's full-on panic time now because, we don't want JC to die.
No.
But he finds out something very, very important to the rest of the story is the fact of, and I don't know why he's lighting a book of matches. I don't know if he just stunk the place up that bad.
Yeah, I've always wondered that watching that scene because he's he establishes he knows the slugs are there. What am I going to do? I'm just going to light matches and throw it at the ground and see what happens. Just
Yeah.
Just, fortunate that the first thing he tried happened to be the right
Happens
thing.
to work.
I mean, if he had a water bottle on him and poured some water there, the whole movie would have gone completely
That's true.
different. But no, he had matches, and so history was made.
Yep, he lit the whole back book of matches, holds it under the door, and one of those slugs come by and hits it, and it just like totally disintegrates right there on the spot. So we find out that fire destroys him, but he's just not man enough to make it out on his own, because one gets up his leg, in his pant leg, and it starts crawling up him, and he's trying to get away, and he falls down. And here comes one straight for his mouth. And just like all the other scenes where this kind of happens, you just kind of get a cutaway. But it don't look like it ends well for him.
And you know what? It doesn't end well for him, but you can't blame him. I mean, you gotta... I have 2 working legs. I can walk fairly well. If one of those suckers jumped up my pant leg, I'd go face first into the bathroom floor
Probably.
as well. So, I'd face first in the bath. I'd be crying, though. So he's one up on me, because I'd be crying. He didn't cry yet. He cried a little bit later, but that's understandable.
I'm just going to say this in passing, but I think JC looks a whole lot like the girl that's in Just One of the Guys when she has her hair cut short. They look almost identical, and the hair is one thing, but the facial features and the way they say things and the way their eyes move when they talk, a lot of similarities, man.
Okay, so my crush on the girl from Just One of the Guys had already created all sorts of weird feelings that I wasn't, that I was working with, and now you've just kind of made it even muddier.
It's secretly JC. It's JC with boobs.
Yeah, it's secretly JC. It's JC with boobs.
Oh. Well, there you go. I figured I'd mess that up for you.
Nice. Yeah. Worked well. Good job.
So back to Chris having his time with walking around with Cindy, and she's telling him all this crazy stuff of what she thinks going on. And we don't know it, but he ends up walking her back to the sorority. And when he's leaving, he's being trailed by Cameron, the detective. And they end up, for some reason, like you do, you just end up going over to the detective's house and hang out.
Yeah. After a great little, tete-a-tete between the two of them with the, creepy crawlies, a date for the formal.
Yeah.
That's I love that little exchange. Every exchange between them is good.
Yeah.
But that one's a great one, too.
Yeah, the fact that he's on cloud 9 because she invited him to actually go on a date with him or with her.
Yeah.
And then he turns around and there's Tom Atkins smoking a cigarette going, "Hey, Spanky, we need to talk." I love that he calls him Spanky and Alfalfa, because really,
Spanky and Alfalfa,
that's the way you hear him referred to pretty much the rest of the movie.
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, later on, Chris even refers to them as himself as Spanky and Alfalfa.
Right. So they go back to Cameron's house, and Cameron starts talking about his past. And one of the craziest scenes,
so
I absolutely love this scene, man. Because he's even
Me too.
He talks about...
They are both so good.
Yeah.
Chris is so uncomfortable, and Tom Atkins, he has tears in his eyes as he's delivering this speech. Yep. It's so good.
He's bearing his soul about the night that his woman was dead, and he ended up getting revenge on this maniac that was running around. But he talks about... He asked Jason Lively about, so... Did you have a girlfriend before? Yeah, she kind of broke my heart and decided we shouldn't see each other again. He said, yeah, I had a girlfriend once, too. She decided we shouldn't see each other anymore, either. Then I found her in the car and on the ground over in the woods.
I found her on the ground, in the car, in the woods. Your girlfriend went on to marry and have kids. My girlfriend was cut up into pieces, or however that line goes.
Yeah, and it just gets darker and darker. He's like, I mean, that's where it kicks off, and then it just keeps getting darker from there. To the point he says, you know what happened next?
Why are you telling me this?
You know what happened next, Spanky? Or should you be telling me this? Close. I leveled off that shotgun at his chest. It's fantastic.
I love that line too. I love that line too. Should you be telling me this? Close. It's like he's not even listening. He's in his own world. He's just admitting to a 25-year-old murder.
Yeah. And the thing is he confesses not only to the murder, but he buried him behind the sorority house, which is now where the house mother's cottage is. And instantly, I mean, right out of him saying that, it cuts to the house mother's cottage. She's sitting there watching Plan 9 from outer space. And
second Plan 9 from outer space reference in the movie earlier in the beginning when the first girl leaves to go to on her date. One of the two peoples that they walk by is sitting there going, "Oh, did you see Plan 9?" And then they cut. So second Plan 9 reference in the movie.
But yeah, she's sitting there watching TV, and all of a sudden, up through the ground of the floor of the house comes the maniac with an axe. I'm like, why would he bury him with the axe? I mean, if you shot this guy,
and there was blood on it too. He didn't even clean it off. He just left the axe with him.
Oh man,
yeah, I wondered that too. But in his defense, Detective Cameron is not the most, even keel guy.
That's true. Very true.
He may be a couple of,
and he was a rookie at this point too, so he didn't think things through. He didn't think about, hey, what if this body comes back alive? He'll have a way to bust up out of a floor if he's got an axe, or if he doesn't, then he'll just be under the house for a long time.
I mean, really, who could see that coming? If he could see that coming, that would be a little, So you got to forgive him.
Right. But yeah, now the house mother's been chopped up to bits. And again, Cameron gets the phone call. You need to come out here. So he grabs his shotgun, takes off, shows up at the house. And, the coroner is saying again while he's eating a sandwich or something.
Yep.
If we put one body piece in each bag, we'd be here all night.
And I love that he's saying that. There's like all these college girls just crowded around them, and the coroner's just flippant about their dead house mother that was just chopped up with an axe, and who cares?
But yeah, he's looking for the body, and the body's nowhere to be found. Then you got an APB going on. Cops are running around everywhere looking for somebody with an axe. And they finally find him. There's a great scene where the cops are in the car, and they're patrolling, and one of them stops because they see something. And that skeleton person, or whatever this maniac comes up, which at this point, he kind of looks like Eddie off the cover of some of the Iron Maiden album covers.
Yes, definitely.
Oh,
definitely.
He's just a skull with a mullet and a hatchet.
That's something about this movie too that I think it's easy to forget how good the effects are. Really, I mean, because it's a great looking zombie. You see, like, some of the stuff with people's faces half gone. Right. It's really, really good effects in here. Even the slugs themselves are so well done. I'm not going to say you never see the strings. There's some moments where you definitely see the strings, but usually it's really well done. Yeah, really impressive work on the. I didn't look up to see who did the effects, but whoever did it, kudos to you. Good job.
Yeah, I know you're listening. Totally agree, man. I mean, I think that they still hold up, and it holds up in this 80s frame of what we're looking at. So you don't look at it and go, "Oh, that looked really crappy." I mean, it holds up to the time, and it's enjoyable.
Exactly. They're very good. Yeah, very fun.
But they end up cornering this guy or this body in a dead end street. Cameron shows up with his shotgun. I've already killed you once, So we kind of get that thing. Cops are unloading on this guy, and bullets aren't really doing anything.
For some reason, his body's glowing. There's shafts of light coming out of his body for no reason. Well, they're just coming out of the back. When we see him from the front, they're not there. So,
well, you got to remember,
I don't know what
this is around the time of Rambo 3, and in Rambo 3, he blows that big hole in his side, and he cauterizes it, and you can see daylight through him. So it was just the going trend of the time.
Yeah, nice. Rambo 3.
Yeah. And then Cameron blows his head off with the shotgun, and a ton of these slugs come out, and all the cops are just standing, which I think is kind of odd, because now there's, 15 cops standing around, all with their mouths open, shocked at what they just saw, and no slugs are jumping in them. I thought that could have been a good opportunity, but, it's in hindsight.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I like to think that every single one of those cops called off the next day, that they were all like, you know what? Good pension, good pay, but you know what? I need a new career. I'm not dealing with this.
But we're in luck, because the very next day is the day of the dance, and we get an 80s montage that is a 100% pure 80s montage. Yes. And it's like I said, it's the scene, because everybody's getting on the bus during that scene. Oh, yeah.
Two things about this. It's the scene when I was a kid that I just kept rewinding over and over and over again to count exactly how many people were on that bus to get a accurate number. And I also want to bring up one of my favorite because all the side characters too, like what was it, Steve with the unibrow at the beginning, are all so good. And I absolutely love the guy taking attendance. On the bus. He is loving every minute of it. He's so excited. Yeah, Steve's here. Right. He is like, yeah. And he is just loving taking attendance. If things had gone on differently, he was going to become like an accountant. Yeah. He was going to work for the IRS or something and just enjoy just bookkeeping. He had a long, line of bookkeeping in front of him, and it didn't work out because of the den mother's dog.
It's all because of what he said. We're going to get done, dude.
Yep. We're going to get done, dude.
So I was probably rewinding this part of the movie too, but it was probably to catch all the brief nudity that leads into that as well, because I was 16 when this came out, so... Yeah. Well, yeah. There was that nudity, but again, just to show where my mind's at, I was like, "Oh, that's nice," but no, how many people are on that bus? I need to. Okay, wait. Oh no, there's somebody behind that person. Yeah. And you priorities. You kind of said it too, man. This dog is kind of like the reason for the whole last half of the movie. I mean,
yeah.
Not only does it turn somebody more significant in the movie into a zombie, but it makes that whole bus crash. It's got all these guys dressed up in tuxedos who are already half blitzed. The dog runs out in front of it. This dog has already got a slug in it, or many slugs. It walks up to Brad, and he's at the sorority. He's going to go apologize. I guess he's apologizing. He's going to go talk to Cynthia and try to fix things.
Whatever he's doing.
Because, they have totally split. And he sees the dog, and the dog gives him a slug. And I remember...
Slooped right into his mouth.
I remember showing this to my niece. And it's one of those moments where you're already starting to put the dots together, right? And she says, if they end up killing this dog at the end of the movie, I'm going to be mad. And I'm like, it's already dead. She's like, no!
I hate to tell you this. Hate to give you the bad news, but
the dog's already dead. And
I mean, depending on which ending you watch, the dog kind of makes it.
True. Yeah,
kind of.
We'll talk about that for sure, because that's
we definitely need to talk about that.
So, do we go back to the dog runs out in front of the bus while Brad has now become a zombie? He goes to talk to Cynthia at the sorority, knocks on the door. I guess he knocks on the door. Haven't figured that one out yet either.
Yeah.
And the girl from Return of the Living Dead is at the door.
Suzanne Snyder.
Yep. Opens the door and says, "Oh, hi, Brad." Cynthia!
I'm sure. I'm so sure.
Yeah, because she thinks he's like got makeup on or something, like he's supposed to look like a zombie. And the fact that Cynthia comes downstairs, grabs Brad by the hand, never looks at him, sits down on the steps.
I love that she never looks at him.
They sit down and have this long conversation. She's just spilling her heart about how it's just over. And he's back there behind her incubating. And these slugs are just popping out of his mouth and landing on the ground in front of her. It's hilarious.
Completely oblivious, not even seeing it. I love like the first. I said earlier, you don't always not see the strings, and like the first time you see it, you completely see the string coming down his face being used to pull it out. Great
and
stuff.
the fact that half the time it's not even his head, you can tell it's a fake head, so that makes it fun too. But leading up to this, we kind of left out something important, is where JC has left a message for Chris. Chris can't find JC anywhere, and JC has recorded on his Walkman a message about what's happened to him, about how he's changing and he can walk, but it's not a good thing. I tell you what, the message is very bothersome, and it goes back to you have gone hook, line, and sinker for these characters. You really like these characters, so when he's delivering this on this cassette, you're heartbroken,
Oh yeah.
So
you already know he's gone.
Yeah.
You already know it does not end well for him.
Right.
And having this callback, it's like, that's a hard scene.
So he ends up.
It's a hard scene.
JC says that, he feels like he's dead. He doesn't have a heartbeat or a pulse, and he went down to the boiler room because he knows that heat will kill these things. And Chris goes down to the boiler room and finds his body laying there. And you can see where several of these slugs have come out of him, and they've all disintegrated. So the heat, he did himself a service by going down there and not only doing himself in, but the rest of them too. So,
Yep.
And because of that, Chris goes back to Detective Cameron's house, who at this point has totally flipped his lid. Totally flipped his lid. He's taped up the door. He's got the gas on his stove.
That's one of my favorite. I say that a lot with this movie. That's one of my favorite things. But I love that scene, and that's one of my favorite things with Fred Decker.
Yeah,
that he puts if you're not paying attention, you don't realize that he was about to kill himself.
Yeah,
at first when he's pulling the tape off, you're like, why is he pulling the tape off? And then it's like they do a cut and a cut and a cut, and it's like 2 scenes later that they pay off the gas. And if you're not paying attention, you have no idea that's happening. And if you then his next movie, Monster Squad, you pay attention to that one where the mom and dad are constantly squabbling back and forth. There's a scene in that where the mom comes down the steps and she's packed up all her stuff.
Yeah.
And she's leaving him. It's not mentioned in the movie. It's not a plot point. Just like this, it's not a plot point. It's just like this casual, realistic darkness just worked in to the storyline in the background just to make the movie all the more real.
Well,
I wish we had gotten more out of Fred Decker. I wish these movies had done
absolutely. Better. I totally agree. That's one of those things you're just like, what? Why stop when you were making such great stuff?
Yeah.
But I think Cameron has just relived his worst nightmare. This is the thing that he can't get out of his mind, and now he had to do it again. Kill the same guy again. Yeah. So, he's ready to bon voyage. He's ready to leave this planet. And luckily, Chris knocks on the door, and at first he tries to ignore the door knocks. Then he ends up getting up, like you said, peeling the tape off the doors that's been sealed off.
Angrily peeling the tape off.
What do you want? And that's when he says, they got alfalfa. So he knows right then that, and he starts telling him about what he heard on the tape where he says the slugs get in you and they lay eggs in your brain, and that's how they regenerate. So at this point, they decide to go to the sorority house because they know this is falling apart. That's it all kind of
after picking up a flamethrower with the Dick Miller cameo,
which is so great. So great, man.
Go back and watch it just for the Dick Miller scene.
Yeah, him and Tom Atkins together, man. Yeah. If you got the permissions, just hand me the permission slip there. Yeah, you see...
as he's casually playing with the shotgun shell and casually loading up the shotgun.
That's the problem there, Walt. I don't have one.
Dick Miller doing such a good job with his nervous, Dick Miller knows he's screwed.
Yeah.
He knows he needs to...
Brilliant.
Yes.
But they end up getting back to the sorority just in time when Brad is about to have his head exploded and attack Cynthia. and they end up shooting Brad in the head and setting his head on fire. Like you do.
Yeah. Like you do. Yeah. That makes sense. That's not to be that guy, but that's kind of what we need to do with the Bradsters of the world.
So, what does he tell him? Sorry, Brad. Don't take it personal or something. What does he say to him?
Yeah, something like that. Don't take it personally. Yeah, something like that.
And then we cut back to the actual bus that's been crashed.
Yes.
Where you were probably keeping score here, right?
Yes. When I'm sitting with my notebook, I remember tossing my notebook going, well, now they're coming back to life. Do I count them? Do I count them twice? Because, technically, do zombies count? And so I had this whole, I had to pause the movie to have this whole moral, discussion with myself as to whether or not zombies counted as human life and whether or not to count them twice. And ultimately, I put a little asterisk next to Night of the Creeps at the top, and then I added a second column just for zombie deaths.
Wow. And I'm going,
yeah.
Hey, I got to almost see, 4 sets of boobs.
Yeah, I'm sitting here making notes on zombie deaths, and you're sitting there 5 years older than me going, boobies.
But yeah, so the bus crashes, and then you get all these guys that are all bloody from head to toe in tuxedos, roaming down the street, coming straight for the sorority, and we get the iconic Tom Atkins line.
The classic line.
Well, I got good news and bad news, ladies. Good news, your dates are here. Bad news, they're dead.
They're dead.
Oh,
so good.
Yeah. And at this point, it's just a throwdown, man. This is such a payoff, man. Zombies everywhere. You've got Cynthia and Chris out front kicking butt. She's joined the fight now. And Chris is shooting them in the head, and she's using the flamethrower to burn them out. And then you got Tom Atkins in the house trying to defend the ladies in there. We forgot that Gordon, the second Gordon, pops in before this.
Yep.
Where he's
Gordon.
he's just a skeleton cat at this point with worms all over his face. But you start having zombies busting into the sorority from the back window where Detective is. And when I met Tom Atkins, I got him to sign a picture, and I got him to write, "It's Miller time." I mean, nice. Mine, I had a quandary. I never asked them to write anything particular. There's only been 2 times where I've asked for anything particular, but I never asked for anything particular. Yeah. And I'm up there and I'm like, I can't decide between just the classic thrill me or I've got good news and bad news. Yeah. I couldn't decide which one I wanted. And he knew his audience well enough to go to Joe, thrill me, Tom Atkins. Yeah. So just, to me, that line, the "It's Miller time," is just so left field.
Yeah.
I mean, who in the right mind would? I'm fighting a zombie. I've shot him, and now I'm getting a can of hairspray and my cigarette, and I'm going to go, "It's Miller time." I'm going to light you up.
Yes, pay off the cigarette that's been dangling from his mouth the entire movie. Yeah,
and we get some great
good payoff to everything.
Some great fight scenes outside. We got where they get in the little shed and they get locked up in there. Yep. Zombies busting through it.
Good plan.
Yeah, you got it's the lawnmower where we killed Unibrow guy. What
was the line? That very. I don't remember the line there when he did it. It doesn't matter. I don't remember the line, but it was one of those really, cheap 80s lines.
Sorry, dude.
Like, sorry, dude, or something like that, yeah.
Oh.
Well, that's one of my favorite things about just that carnage there at the end is, like, you just watch Tom Atkins just being a badass.
Yeah.
Like, there's the one scene where he just catches the slug with his hand, spinning around, shooting everybody. It's just like 15 minutes of him just being a badass. Awesome. But at the same time, you have Chris and Cynthia out there, and another one of my favorite lines. He hands her the shotgun first and goes, "Here, take this. It'll make you feel better." And she kind of hugs it. She kind of wraps it around and kind of rubs her face on it, and then from that point on, she is so natural with the shotgun, because a lot of times you'll see these people in these movies and they look like, they're going to break their arm if they actually shoot it. But, she just seemed so natural with that shotgun, like, okay, yeah, I'm in this. I know what I'm doing. And like just all three of them just kicked into just, badass ass kickers
survival mode, And they're holding their own out there, man. I mean, they get in a couple of tight spots, but they end up working out of it. And then that's at the point where Chris notices that the slugs, when they bust out of these zombies' heads, are going right back down into the basement. And he goes, okay, what's down there? And that's when you put together, that's where they stored all those brains. So they go in the house, get all the ladies out of there, tell them, get out of the house now. And they go down to the basement, and they're looking around, and then they see over in the corner,
Tom Atkins.
Well, they see Tom Atkins for sure, and he's got tape over his mouth and a gallon or 2 gallons of gasoline in his hands.
Convenient, very convenient that gasoline was down there right near that big pile of rags that everybody keeps in their basement. I know I always keep piles of rags. I mean, that's probably why I'm in an apartment now, because the house always kept the gas next to the pile of rags.
And over in the opposite corner is about 1,000 slugs just slithering all over each other. And so what Tom Atkins is doing is he's got tape over his mouth so he can't be, what's the word? Infiltrated.
Infiltrated, that works. Infiltrated. Zombified.
And he's taking the gasoline, and he starts splashing the gas everywhere, and he takes the tape off his mouth, and he starts counting down. So he's telling Spanky and Cynthia they need to get out of there because he's about to blow this place up. So they take off running. They're doing the countdown as they're running out. He's splashing the...
And neither of their countdowns even remotely
not even close.
Yeah. They are not even close. There's no continuity between them.
Yeah.
It's like they don't even match themselves.
Well,
they do a horrible job.
Well, Chris gets faster as it goes towards the end, too. So it's like...
Yeah.
But anyways, they make it outside, and that's where you get, again, another slugs. There's several of them that are like going to fly at him and get to him. Get to the detective. But when Chris counts down to 0 and says, "Detective, thrill me," the whole sorority just goes up in a ball of flames.
Boom.
Killing all of the slugs. All of them. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. So it's all over. They have that nice moment. They, eye contact. The two of them finally kiss.
Yeah, even though all of her personal belongings that she's had all of her life is just now burning up, and there's probably some ladies that were probably passed out in the back room somewhere. It's probably burned up alive. But hey,
yeah. But
what can you do?
Yeah, I mean, what you gonna do? You can't
all.
Grieve forever. Yeah, you can only grieve for so long. You can't expect them to worry about that forever.
But we get the scene here where they've finally embrace, and according to what version you watch, this is where we have 2 different endings.
Yes.
The one that I grew up seeing, they're kissing. And they see the little dog coming up. They bend over to look at the dog, and a slug comes out of the mouth, and then we get a cutaway to black, and that's the way the movie ends.
Yes. It's interesting. Like you said, that's the one you grew up seeing, and that's definitely the one I remember seeing. But this is like one of the first movies that I remember being conscious of the fact that there was an alternate ending. So I know I saw it somewhere before it came out on DVD because I already knew what that ending was, and I had already seen the stuff. So I know it had come with. So like this was, like I said, this is like one of the first movies that I was like aware that there were different endings. And I have no idea where I saw that, but I did see it somewhere. And I was actually when like I said, I watched it last night with a friend, showing it to her for the first time. And again, she loved it, had a lot of fun. And I was trying to remember where I saw it for the first time because I know it wasn't that DVD. But I was definitely aware of the alternate ending. And the alternate ending I remember is different than the alternate ending that's in the theatrical or the director's cut.
Oh, really?
Because the director's cut, as I'm sure you were just about to explain, the director's cut, they kind of embrace the quality of video gets really, really bad. Yep. You cut to Detective Cameron walking down the street with the slug. Yep. All burnt up and thing. He falls, his head explodes, slugs everywhere. Yep. They go up under the fence, and then you just see this adorable, fake cemetery that looks like it was made for a 12-year-old's, model train. And, the alien ship flying over it, looking for it, and then as it disappears, the stroll starts. I remember seeing it without seeing Tom Atkins.
That makes sense.
I remember seeing it without Tom Atkins there, where you just see it and then you see the slugs. I want to say I remember the slugs coming from the dog, but I could be completely wrong on that.
And that would totally make sense to me, because then you're back down to possibly one slug, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, like you said, with Atkins, you got, several that come out or whatever. So, I mean, the fact that it's the cemetery, so you're saying, oh, man, this could be really Return of the Living Dead, you know?
Yeah.
Or,
Which ending do you prefer?
I still like it with the dog coming up and you get the slug coming out and it just ends. I still prefer that one. I guess because it's that thing of, it's the first one I saw.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I actually like the. I don't like that Detective Cameron is turned.
Right.
I want him to have just died. I don't want him to have been turned. But I think I like that ending better because we get the cemetery and then the spaceship.
Yeah.
I like the tying back into the spaceship at the end of the first, at the beginning of the movie.
Yep.
Ending with the beginning. I like bringing that all together. But I do love the dog, even though it hints that Jill Whitlow got turned.
Sure.
And I don't think I like that.
Oh. Well, to me, it kind of left it open to sequel, right? You could easily have this run on, and that was another thing of the trend of the time too. Man, is always leave it open because you never know. So, that's the reason we get Bride of Reanimator and Beyond Reanimator and. Those we could have probably done without. But anyways.
Well, you know what? Beyond Reanimator gave us, one of the best songs ever in horror movie history in Shake Your Dead Bones. You got to reanimate those feet. I'm not going to tell you the amount of times I've driven home from work at 2 o'clock in the morning when, we could actually leave the house to go to things like work with my radio blaring, singing Dr. Reanimator at the top of my lungs. Happened way too many times for me to count.
That's awesome. So yeah, man, this movie to me is just. I don't see how you can call yourself a horror fan and you haven't seen this one. It may not be one that you like because horror is a lot of different things to people, right? This one, to me, this is a gateway horror movie, right? This is one that you can let 11-year-olds and teenagers watch, and they actually get a kick out of it. And it's not too scary, but it's got enough stuff in it to make you go, ugh,
Yeah, and it's got a nice mix of comedy without being, it's funny, but it's not a horror comedy.
Right.
So it does that line really well, which again, so does Monster Squad, which again, I think is the strength of Fred Dekker.
Yep. And just the brilliance of sci-fi to the sci-fi 50s movies to moving it up to the 80s, which all that stuff goes hand in hand anyways, because I remember growing up, going to school, we would actually still have sock hops, right, where they played all the old 50s tunes and you dressed up in 50s regalia, and it's amazing how those trends, the 80s was infatuated with the 50s, as weird as that is.
Yes. Yeah, and now we're infatuated with the 80s.
Yes. Yeah.
And 90s.
It's that parent.
I guess we're moving to the 90s now.
It's that parent thing, right? So whatever your parents was into kind of becomes part of what you're influenced by. Yep. And that's just how that thing keeps rolling. Yep. Well, dude, I don't really have a rating system or anything for this. I just think this is a highly recommended film. This is really high on my list of movies that I would share with people. So you got any final words you want to say about this one, man?
You know what? Like you said, this is, It's just a classic. I was lucky enough this time last year, as a matter of fact, one of my last cons I was able to go to before the world shut down, I got to meet Jill Whitlow and Jason Lively. And it was a small con, so there wasn't a lot of people there.
Yeah.
So I just got to stand there between the two of them and just listen to them just back and forth and talk to each other, and it was immediately clear that the reason they're so good with each other is because they actually like each other. They're actually friends, and they got along so well. And before I know we're a little over, but one quick story about that. So I met him and talking back and forth, and Jason cannot stop joking. He did not stop joking the entire time. He also didn't stop moving. He was very frenetic and very just moving. And he starts telling me about, he's like, hey, there's a version of this coming out with an action figure. And I'm like, yeah, the Tom Atkins action figure. He goes, no, not that one. And he's like, there's a version of it coming out with a Jill Whitlow action figure. And she looks at him like, what the hell are you talking about? And she's like, and she's got this look like, I don't like where this is going. And he goes, yeah, but only it comes with a bicycle pump, and you have to blow it up if it's life size. And she's like, oh my God, you didn't just say that. And he's like, yeah. And I jumped right in. I'm like, well, you know what the best part about that is? And they both look at me like okay, and I'm like, the best part about that is moving forward, you can go to a completely different type of convention. It just opens up a completely different world of conventions having something like that on your, resume. And she laughs and like, yeah, and maybe, not so many nerds with sweaty hands. And I go, no, there's still going to be people with sweaty hands. It's just, it's sweaty for a completely different reason. So on the bottom of her autograph to me, it says, be careful of men with sweaty hands.
That's hilarious. So I met Jason Lively with Tom Atkins. It was those two guys together.
Oh, nice.
And this is really before the resurgence of Night of the Creeps kind of happened, before they even started, before the re-release, the director's cut and all that stuff.
Nice.
And it was Texas Frightmare, and they had everybody from all the Romero movies there. And then off in the corner, they were going to have Tom Atkins and Jason Lively. And they didn't bring anything to sign from Night of the Creeps because there wasn't anything. And the people that were running it was like, are you out of your minds? And they're like, you mean people still like this movie? They're like, are you kidding? So they actually went and took a copy of the movie and played it and took some still shots, printed them off on photo paper and gave them to them. Amazing. So they'd have something to sign for people. And that's one of the things I got.
Amazing.
And my story with Tom Atkins was, I've got... Who cares how long this episode is? We'll talk. This was they had found an original print of Night of the Living Dead that was on like 60 mil or something. I mean, man, it was, and they were actually going to show it and at a theater in Texas with Romero and everybody there. Now, this isn't where they were going to show it and Romero and everybody standing up front. They were sitting in the seats. And me and my buddy, David Foster, which he's probably listening, he's the biggest Romero fan. So this was like his Romero Palooza. I mean, everybody from every frickin' movie was there. And so we go to the theater and watch this movie, Night of the Living Dead. And right across from us is Dee Wallace, Malcolm McDowell, George Romero, then everybody else that's involved in these flicks are all sitting there, and we're just in hog heaven. On the way out, there was an after party that we were supposed to go to, and we didn't know. We're in Texas. I mean, we're from Tennessee. We don't know the first thing about Texas. So we're trying to find somebody and say, how do we get to this other location? Because we don't know where we're at. We found the theater somehow. And we saw Ken Foray. And, hey, Ken, I said, we're big fans. I said, but we're supposed to go to this after party thing. He's like, oh, yeah. He said, we're supposed to go there too. He said, I'll tell you what, y'all just follow me. And so here we are driving down the road following Ken Foray to this party. And
perfect person to follow because no way you're going to lose him in a crowd.
Exactly.
You are never going to lose Ken Foray in a crowd.
And I can go on and on about that story, but what it come down to is I went to the restroom at the party, and out in the lobby was Tom Atkins. He goes, "Hey, I'm trying to find a John." I'm like, hey, "Okay, it's right over here." And he says, "I'm Tom, by the way." I said, "Yeah, I know who you are, man." I said, "You're one of the coolest people ever." And he's like, "Oh, so you know who I am?" I was like, "Yeah." He said, "What's your name, Scout?" And I told him my name was Rick. He's like, "You got a pretty good accent there." He said, "Where are you from?" And I told him Tennessee. So the rest of the whole time that we were there, I would walk by and he'd call me Ricky Bobby. "Hey, Ricky Bobby. Appreciate your help the other night."
Nice.
So, but he's that person that you wonder how much of it is the character and how much of it is real. He has a part of that in him already.
Definitely.
And just super cool, man. Super cool. And I love that whole memory. And Jason Lively, like you said, they were cracking up with each other, and it was just fantastic. So, but yeah, man, all you folks listening, you got to check this movie out. It's a ton of fun. Can't recommend it enough. We may try to get together and do Monster Squad if you're up for that.
We should, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm up.
Well,
definitely.
Well, man, I totally appreciate you coming on. This has been a blast. I'm sure that we could talk for another 4 or 5 hours.
Definitely, yeah. It's been great. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and so far it hasn't messed up on us. So
No, yeah, everything. I mean, this is my first time doing this, so we still have plenty of time for me to stupid at it. So I could stupid it before we're done here, but my fingers are crossed.
Oh, well, man, I appreciate you hanging out with me.
No problem. Just, I got one thing to say before we go, though.
Yeah.
Detective, thrill me.
All right. Folks, we will see you later on. Adios.